Hi all. First I want to say thanks to the Boulder Bookstore for giving me the opportunity to talk about my new book. Hi, I'm Jo Renfro and I am an author-illustrator of children's picture books. What a great job. My latest book is called Peg's Egg and it's the third in a series. And Peg Gets Crackin' was the first one. Peg Gets Plucky is the second one, and this is the third one. And I shouldn't say this, but it's probably my favorite one because I think it's hilarious. So anyway, briefly, it's about a chicken. Peg is the chicken. She started out as an egg, but now she's a chicken. And she remembers how, she finds an egg out in a field by itself. And she remembers how scared she was when she was inside of her egg, imagining what was outside of her shell. And so she decides to take care of this egg until it's time to crack, but it takes way too long and she's not that patient. So there's a twist in here and I think it's super fun and a good lesson about, I don't want to use the word lesson, a good message about learning to laugh at yourself, being okay with laughing at yourself.
What inspired you to write this book?
I have grandkids and they're so much fun and they're, my inspiration for all these stories. But when they do something embarrassing, and I actually think this goes for grown-ups too, it just kind of was a reminder for me with the grandkids, when they get embarrassed, they do something silly or make a mistake or whatever, they can kind of like, I don't want to say freak out, but they get a little upset and embarrassed and mad or cry or stomp off or whatever. And I thought, what a great lesson for all of us to be able to laugh at ourselves. I mean, I've always admired people who were self-deprecating and could laugh at themselves. And so I thought it would be a great little story for all of us. And I use Peg as the main character because she's just funny and fuzzy and adorable anyway. So it was a good way to put the lesson out there.
Is there a time in your life when humor helped ease an embarrassing situation?
Well, I've had many, many embarrassing situations in my life and I haven't always laughed, so there we go. I like to run and, living in Colorado, I, anyway, in particular, trip and fall and sometimes I just get mad and other times, I just have to laugh because it happens to everybody. It's embarrassing. You just pop back up and be like, look away, nobody saw that, and keep going. So it just helps to laugh and not make it too serious.
What message do you hope children get out of reading this story?
I just think to be able to laugh at yourself. Silliness is a good thing. And I came up with some stuff. I'm putting some games, like fun games and stuff on my website that people can go to and download when they're reading the book and hopefully impress upon kids the importance of laughing at yourself and daring to be silly. I mean, I think it's kind of a confidence thing. If you are able to laugh at yourself, it means that you're comfortable with who you are and you're gonna make mistakes sometimes. And so they're really silly little games that I'm putting on my website that teachers, parents, whoever can play with their kids to get them to hopefully encourage them to be silly and not be embarrassed about it and have fun. The other thing I did is I came up with these cards. They're super fun and they're little scratch-off cards with, and I'm gonna also put these, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do this, but put these on my website as well. It says Dare to be Silly and it's got Peg and they say things like, stand on one leg and moo like a cow as long as you can, or flap your arms and quack like a duck and jump around in circles or something like that. It's just silly stuff. There's no like winner, loser, none of that kind of stuff. It's just about having fun and being silly.
What does your illustration process look like?
I work on my iPad, what a great gig to sit on my couch and color pictures all day. And I work in an app called Procreate, which I love. I worked traditionally for a lot of years, and I just could never get exactly what was in my head down on paper. So when I started working digitally, it was just a real game changer for me. So I start, say if I'm coming up with a character. So this is an example of what Peg looked like when I was first envisioning this story. I came up with several different scenarios. I hope you guys can see that. See that good? Mm-hmm. Of what Peg could look like. There's, here's a fuzzy one. This one's kind of a smooth. This one's just another fuzzy ball. And this one has big, giant googly eyes. Mm-hmm. And so I put a thing on Instagram about, and had people vote on which ones they like the best, and the one with the big googly eyes won. And so that's how I came up with Peg, the character. But I decided those, well, let me show you again. Those eyes were just a little too gigantic. So I decided to scale them back a little bit so that she could have more of a face too, not just all eyeballs. And so I just started playing around with the character. And as far as the story, Peg, the initial Peg, the Peg Gets Crackin', I had this idea. I also work in greeting cards, and so I had an idea for a card about, you know, don't put off doing what you want to do. You got to get cracking and do it. So I was working on a greeting card idea for Time to Get Crackin', and then I was like, wait a minute, this could be a cool kids book. So that's where Peg started with the character, came up with this Time to Get Crackin' thing, which that was the initial title I had chosen, and then the publisher thought putting Peg in the title was a better idea, which I agreed. So it started out with Peg Gets Crackin'. And as far as the illustration process, now that I'm working on my iPad and I can change things easily, change colors, and there's a lot of illustrators I really admire, and one of them is a guy named David Litchfield. He does a lot with light in his illustrations, and I love that. So this is one of my favorite illustrations from Peg Gets Plucky, and I had so much fun working with, like, it's the full moon with all the animals gazing up at it and the starry sky, but the moon is kind of shining off the faces of the animals and stuff like that. So I love playing more and more, and the more I get into it, the more I love playing with the light and all the color schemes and all that stuff. So being a picture book author and illustrator, I love reading children's books. I have a ridiculous amount of children's books. Fortunately, I have grandkids, and they can come to JoJo's library and check out books, and that way I can kind of rationalize my book purchases. But in my opinion, I mean, there's so many important books about grief or friendship or sharing, and all those are very important, about diversity and inclusion, and I love all of those books. But I also think that sometimes humorous books don't get the credit they deserve, because I think sometimes kids and their parents just want to be able to laugh. Maybe there's a message in there. I hope that's the way it is with Peg. I hope they're fun and funny, but also there's a little message in there to pick up on. So there's a book called, and I can't find my copy of it because I think my grandkids probably made off with it at some point or another, but it's by a gal named Marjorie Kuehler. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And David Catrow is the illustrator, and it's called That's Good and That's Bad. And it's, I mean, when I read that with my grandkids, we all end up just in hysterics, and I think that's important. And another book, this one's by Karen Beaumont and also illustrated by David Catrow, who I love because his illustrations are just really crazy and wacky. It's called I Like Myself, and it's a great message. It's in rhyme, so much fun to read, and it's just this message about loving yourself, even if you have purple lips and polka dot hair or whatever it is, but it's just a really fun. So I Like Myself. That's a great one. And those are but two funny books. This book is great for imagination. It's called Journey. There's no words, but it's easy to, so the child and the parent together can make up the story, but it's easy to follow the story and kind of know where it's going. So it's not too challenging, but it's, you know, magical worlds and castles and stuff like that. So it really, I think, sparks imagination. One other one that I like that I just got is called Dear Acorn, Love Oak, and it's all these different scenarios, like the acorn writing to the oak tree and then the oak tree writing back. I think it's fun and makes you, it's just a different perspective on things, and it kind of makes you see things from two sides, like how the oak tree would look at the acorn and how the acorn would look at the oak. And there's a lot of examples in here of different, let's see, Dear Coat, and then it's written from the button, and then the button coat writes back to the button. So it's just really fun. So I think all the books are important, funny, serious, you know, with deeper lessons, with no lessons at all. I think they're all important. So,
is there anything else you want us to know about your book?
No, there's, like I said, there's 3 of them, and first one's about an egg. That's why her name's Peg, because it rhymes with egg. Peg the egg, and afraid to be cracking out of her shell. Second one, she's out adventuring, and you know how you can do hard things. And the third one is her finding an egg. So it's kind of gone full circle, and she's the one taking care of the egg. And so I just want to remind you, there's going to be fun stuff on my website, which is jorenfro.com. And so look on there, download the games, have some fun with your kids.
Can you read us a short passage from your book?
Yes, I can. Okay, so this is Peg's egg. Here's the beginning. I'm not a good upside down reader, so. One day, Peg happened upon an egg. What was it doing out in the field all by itself? So here she is. She finds this egg. It was a big egg. She wondered, what could it be? And so she's imagining all these things. There's a turtle, there's a hippo, there's an ostrich, and there's a dragon. So her imagination, again, is going crazy. She remembered how scared she had been inside of her shell. So she decided to take care of it until it was time for it to crack. This shows back to the first book when she's in her shell and her mom and all the other eggs have cracked and she's going, Mom, 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 Mommy, Mom. So this kind of flashback to the first book. And here she is giving her egg a big hug because she's going to take care of it. She kept her egg warm, which is a little bit small to keep it warm, and safe. No, she's telling the dog no, he can't get the egg. And dry. This is one of my favorite ones because she's just out in the rain holding this leaf over the thing, but looking pretty miserable. She sang to it. Well, life on the farm is kind of laid back. It seemed appropriate for a farm book. And told it stories of all the wonderful things waiting for it outside of its shell. And then she waited and waited. She says, hello, and waited. And there she's yawning. But the egg was quiet. It's getting boring taking care of this egg that's not doing anything. She tried to be patient. She really did. Maybe the egg just needed a little encouragement. She gave it a little teeny tiny nudge, just a little one. But, oh no, what if it cracked before it was ready? She tried to stop it, but then, and that's all I can tell you because that's, next page is the twist that I love so much and it's really fun. So I hope you'll check it out. Thank you.